Day 2, hour 16, and we are rocking and rolling. We have some here. Tyson, one of our favorite people from SketchUp, came up to join us and show some support. And Lars, what's happening in your world?
Tyson's just critiquing my work here, so we're looking over my window layouts. There's still a few things that need to be improved, but we've got the basic fenestration and kind of working my way around the structure. And I still got a lot to do up here, so I'm going to start working on that and hopefully get that wrapped up in the next hour or two.
Nice. Hey, Nick Saunders says, hi, Tyson.
We love you.
You get a giant hand. All right. Past Joe. Leo.
What's up, guys? I'm still doing tile. I'm on to a new room. Making progress, slowly but surely. Got 2 powder rooms left. And then moving on to the kitchen, putting in appliances, putting in plumbing. Got all the toilets in, but that's all we've got for plumbing so far.
Nice. How did you pick your seagrass tile?
It was on recommendation from Mr. Michael. Likes that texture a lot.
He does love seagrass.
Yeah. And then we've got all these little variations of it in here and this cool little shelf.
Can you show us that detail in the tile a little bit more?
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah, this shelf's pretty cool too.
Nice. And was that just a design that you put together?
Yep. Yeah, just threw it in there.
Cool. So how are you feeling about the progress and where the team is at right now?
I feel good. Yeah, we still got a lot to do. Hopefully we'll be able to pull it together.
Your eyes aren't crossing from the tile yet?
Not yet.
All right.
Getting there though. Checking in an hour.
Hey, Michael.
Hi, Aaron. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
What is going on over here?
I'm actually building a porte-cochere. Porte-cochere is French for coach port, and as you can see, it's going to go in the front of the house here. And this was me mocking up a little bit to see what the proper proportions are going to be, and then I've proceeded this far, and actually these guys here, these little wood strips that go on either side of the beams, kind of to make the I-beams, to kind of make them more interesting and soften them a little bit. A little long, these are components, and so I'm going to shorten those down so that they're not sticking up out of the roof like that. But you can see because these are all components, if I do one, it affects a whole bunch of them. And that's the one great thing about components is you can model one thing, copy it multiple times, and then whatever you do to one of them affects all of them. You have to be careful though, because sometimes you may copy something and you don't want it to mimic what you do to one of the other ones. So components are great, but they're also sometimes there's a need when you copy a component to then make it unique so that it doesn't change when you change something at the other end of the house, for example. So I've shortened these down. I got a bunch of bolts and nuts floating around out in the middle of nowhere, and I need to I didn't install this long beam over on the other side, so I need to put this guy over here. I'm going to do that now. Oops. I'm using the M-Alt copy command and slide that guy into place. And I'm getting pretty close. I'm going to put some bolts in this, like I have some bolts here. And I want to put some bolts in these guys to make them a little bit more interesting. You know, the things that makes the models interesting is basically detail. So I'll straighten that out in a minute, but you can see adding little details like this is really what makes a model come to life.
Now the porte-cochere is something that's there with the existing house. How did you decide to keep it?
You know, there's certain things that worked about the house, and I also think that the way the house is very long, and it sort of faces that view because it's long, and that makes sense. We need something to sort of offset the length and give it some width, and that's one of the things the porte-cochere I think does, is it gives it a little bit of width. Also, you know, it's there's a circular driveway there, and porte-cocheres and circular driveways work really well because you can just pull up in front of the house and unload your passengers, and then circle around and park somewhere else. But you see, put those bolts in, and already it's starting to look better. Bolts, washers. I may look for something a little bit more decorative there, but you can see the raised grain in here. I'm going to play with this color a little bit. I think I probably want to gray it up a little bit and mess with the texture so I'm not getting so much reflection. But yeah, I'm about a half an hour into this, so you can see how quickly things happen. Need to change the rotation of the texture over here, and that's easy enough to do. Sometimes on a slope it's a little bit tricky, but if you take this red guy over here and anchor him on the corner, we can turn our texture and get it all lined up. You can see it's lining up now. Shrink it down just a little bit. And because all of these rafters are components, they're copies of one another. When I did one of them, it did all of them. Orienting textures in the right direction is incredibly important. It really, I can't emphasize how important it is to orient your wood grains in the proper manner. Otherwise, things like you see this texture that's temporary texture is on there now, it doesn't look very good, but you know, if I put a wood texture on there, it looks better. And I'm going to play with this color a little bit. Put some wood cladding under here, some wood boards, and next time you come back, this baby will be all finished, and we can mate it with the rest of the house.
Great. Cool. All right, wrapping up. We will see you guys at the top of the hour.